I got into a number of schools, and we're trying to get the money, even with financial assistance, to be able to go there. We had 4 kids, all of us wanting to go to school, and I remember going down after a baseball game. I went to a really good school up in Claymont, Delaware, on the Pennsylvania border, and drove down to Newark, Delaware. My dad worked at an automobile agency, and I walked in and I had my spikes. And because the reason I was going down, when your dad works in an automobile agency, the great advantage, you get a new car to go to the prom.
Currently, there are more than half of Colorado taxpayers receiving new stimulus checks on the mail that have cashed in $750 as part of an expedited fund. However, there are taxpayers that will have to wait to cash in those checks for the 4th payment. The Colorado Governor Jared Polis signed a bill that changes this year's Tabor refund. The changes have created an even amount for every taxpayer instead of a proportional refund, and sends that refund out earlier than the spring of 2023, when people in Colorado who have seen refunds baked into their state tax return. Because the Colorado Cashback Bill required the Department of Revenue to send the checks out early, the total calculation for taxpayers' refunds have not been finalized. However, state officials have said that the bill essentially puts out 85 to 87% of the state's annual Tabor refund. Since it was not clear what the final revenue was going to be for June, the deadline for accelerated refunds. And also, that means taxpayers can expect the rest of the total refund when they file state tax returns in 2023. And while the $750 checks per individual filer were evened out, the rest of the refunds will be proportional. Over in the state of California, the state's unemployment rate fell recently to 3.9%. That is the lowest point since 1976, as employers in the nation's most populous state continue to defy expectations by adding 84,000 new jobs. Record high inflation coupled with a cool down in the housing market have prompted warnings of an economic slowdown as consumers react to high prices for goods from groceries to gas. Nationwide, unemployment rates dropped in 14 states in July, rose in 3 states, and stayed the same in 33 states. California now has a simply slightly lower unemployment rate than Texas, but it's higher than Florida and Alabama. California's budget includes $9.5 billion, and legislators announced a round of inflation relief. That payments will go out to more than 20 million state residents later this year. Payments will range from $200 to $1,000. And the size of your check depends on your income, filing status, and number of dependents. Individuals making more than $250,000 and joint filers or head of households making more than $500,000 do not qualify for a tax refund.
Mayor Nestor, I have a couple of questions for you. One, I want to get your general response to this overwhelming chorus of critics, Republicans right now, who say this is unfair, that there are people who decided to not go to college because they couldn't pay for it. There are people who decided to join the armed forces in lieu of going to college because they couldn't pay for it. And this leaves them behind. Is there inaccuracy in any of that?
Yes, there is inaccuracy, but there's also a double standard. And this is a debate we are happy to have. First of all, Republicans didn't complain when certain small businesses during the pandemic got extraordinary financial relief and without having to pay back those loans. But when some businesses needed it and other businesses didn't need it. This is the same principle. We have a country where we all benefit, where the middle and working class are doing well. This relief will be targeted to those who need it most. As I said, 90% of those who will benefit earn less than $75,000 a year. So this is not a giveaway to rich people. This is not any of the things that Republican critics have charged. Yes, those who have paid their loans back deserve to be credited. That's fantastic. That's to their credit. But that doesn't mean that those who are, for whatever reason, unable to pay back their loans, like, 1/3 of people have debt and no college degree. That doesn't mean that because some were able to do so, nobody should help those who weren't. By that logic, we wouldn't help anybody in this country.
How much will this cost? How much will Americans have to pay on this price tag overall?
Well, that remains to be determined, and it will be a function of what percentage of eligible borrowers actually take up this opportunity.
$300 billion?
We'll see when they take up the opportunity. We'll be able to give you a much better sense of that.
Ballpark at this point?
I think it depends on the numbers. Like, unfortunately, and we're here to encourage as many people to take it up as possible. If 43 million borrowers.
The Biden administration, everybody, has announced its new plan to help people across the country. Congress's new plan is to provide Americans with new stimulus checks. In the next round of stimulus payments are going to provide additional relief from rising gas prices and inflation. So you want to continue watching this video to find out the most important stimulus check information about the fourth stimulus bill. Now, according to new data, gas prices have slowly fallen since March, when just a gallon topped $4.33 on average nationally. But gas experts have announced that they are starting to creep up again, and it could be a while before people start to see prices come down. Between Monday and Friday, the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline increased by nearly 4 cents to $4.16. Now, demand for gas typically is elevated in the summer as more people are taking road trips, and that tends to put upward pressure on gas prices. The same is likely to go into play out this summer, but the world crisis could actually cause prices for gas to go higher. As for how the prices could go, one expert told Yahoo News, it's basically impossible to get a good gauge on where we'll be this summer because of the wide range of possibilities. Now, lawmakers are also worried about the rising gas prices, and Ro Khanna said this week that he is very concerned about this. According to a new survey, nearly 70% of U.S. adults are changing their summer travel plans because of inflation, and that includes higher gas prices overall. Overall, consumers in the country are paying 8.5% more for goods and services compared with last year. The 18.3% increase in prices for gasoline Americans experienced in March accounted for most of the increase in last month's overall consumer price index, which rose by 1 to 2%. From February, progressives and environmentalists pointed to huge first quarter profits posted by major oil companies to argue in favor of a windfall profits tax on oil companies amid the ongoing energy crunch. Critics of the oil companies call the reports evidence of gouging by the fossil fuel industry at a time when consumers have seen gas prices skyrocket. Environmental groups have also called for taxes on oil companies' windfall profits to be passed on to consumers. Several Democratic-led proposals, one of which Representative Whitehouse co-sponsored with Representative Khanna, would in effect send gas stimulus checks to lower-income Americans. They titled the Big Oil Windfall Profits Tax legislation. In the Democratic representative's proposal, that money would come from levying a per-barrel tax on major oil companies, equal to 50% of the difference between the current price of a barrel of oil and the pre-crisis average price per barrel between 2015 and 2019. Representative Khanna told reporters this week at $120 per barrel of oil, the levy would raise approximately $45 billion per year. At that price, single filers would receive approximately $240 each year, and joint filers would receive roughly $360 each year if they avoid a tax. That's less relief to the American public, but that means their price will come down. Now, the Biden administration has just announced that it will begin a $3.1 billion plan to boost domestic manufacturing of batteries. This is in a broader effort to shift the country away from gas-powered cars to electric vehicles. Folks, that might be a good plan. The electrification